בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, ברוכים הבאים. We are back here on our Tuesday night, IGGERET HAGRA, the series going over the letter that the Gaon of Vilna wrote to his family on his before his journey to Eretz Yisrael. Tonight's shiur will be for a refuah shlema for Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Doris Bat Jora, David ben Nesria, Orit Bat Ilana, Joshua ben Noach, Talia Bat Sarah, Yitro ben Avraham, Alex ben Noach, and also, 1 second. Olivia Mortimer Lefleur, and also for a Atzlacha Rabba for Marsha Bat Julie, Ayla Bat Marsha, Samuel ben Marsha, Cephas ben Marsha, Alexander ben Marsha, Louis ben Marsha, Shaul ben Farzane, Yitro ben Avraham, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, David ben Esria, and Reuven Chaim ben Pala Parel, and Netanel Yosef ben Avraham, and all of Am Yisrael and all of the righteous Noahites that continue to watch our shiurim, continue to support it, continue to help us in all the wonderful things that Baruch Hashem, our organization, is doing. So as you see from the title, this IGGERET HAGRA is a continuation, if you will, of what we've spoken about during the last couple of lectures, which has to do with education. But this particular title is a little different, where it says educating the next Mashiach. So no one gets the wrong idea. We are not going to have a lecture about giving any personal lectures to the Mashiach. You're not going to have to do that. The Mashiach is going to have a complete prophecy and Ruach HaKodesh, unlike any other, with the exception of Moshe Rabbeinu. That he's going to know the entire Torah. He's going to know quite a bit more than the entire world combined. And that's also one of the funny things about some of these, crazy people that think they're Mashiach. More times than not, they have not only that they not know Torah, they've never even completed a single tractate in the Gemara or even the Chumash in many cases. But nonetheless, the Mashiach is going to be an expert in Torah. He's going to obviously be a Talmid Chacham. But at the same token, the Mashiach is going to be born to a man and a woman. He's going to be a regular person. He's going to live a regular life for all intents and purposes, well before he eventually discovers that he is Mashiach. Which means that in each one of our Jewish homes, we could actually be raising the next Mashiach. And the question is, would you still treat your children the same way that you do now if you knew that one of them is going to be Mashiach? If you knew that one of them is going to marry the Mashiach? If you knew that your student is going to be Mashiach? If you knew that your teacher was going to become Mashiach, would you still do the same thing? In fact, even if we don't go to that extent of Mashiach being so close to us, of being a family member or a friend or a teacher, but rather, would you act this way if you knew that one day the Mashiach is going to see you under these conditions? Would you wear that long wig? Would you wear that short skirt? Would you look like some gangster or hip-hop artist with your outfits that you're wearing? Would you spend all the money that you have on some bling-bling watch instead of spending it on Torah if you knew that the Mashiach is going to see this one day? Do you understand that there's a problem? In many cases, most people don't know that there's a problem, hence the reason why we need to educate people. So here the Gaon of Vilna is telling us that the education of the children is significant. But what does it have to do with Mashiach? David HaMelech, the great-grandfather of the Mashiach, writes in Tehillim, in the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Al tig'u b'meshichai ulenevi'ai al tareu. Dare not touch my anointed ones, my Mashiachs, and to my prophets do not harm. Now, in essence, the Mashiach is going to be a prophet. So why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying here, giving David HaMelech the Ruach HaKodesh to write this particular pasuk in Psalm number 107, in verse number 14, or verse number 15? Why does he say in one end, don't touch my, meaning don't harm my Mashiachs, and don't harm my prophets? Isn't it in essence the same thing? Well, that's actually the secret. The secret is that David HaMelech is telling us that in each and every single one of our Jewish homes, we could be finding the Mashiach sitting in our living room playing with toys, reading a Chumash, watching some Torah movie, hopefully not other movies. But nonetheless, a person that understands that the Mashiach could be in their house, could be in their class, could be someone that they're learning from, could be someone that they're teaching, could be all these things, would look at the world a little bit differently. I could assure you that if I took that into my own personal perspective at all times, surely that would make a difference. So the chinuch that we have today, unfortunately, is not the same chinuch that our great-grandparents got. Things have changed quite a bit, and this is not an opinion, it's just a simple reality. And we'll learn some of that based on not just the way that is teaching, the yeshivas are teaching of how they're bigger, and you have much larger institutions and so on, but rather just simply the understanding that we have about the Torah and how important it is and how much money we should spend on Torah and so on. That perspective has changed both by the students and the family of the students, as well as by the teachers and the Rabbanim and so on. Of course, not everyone. Of course, there's always exceptions to any case. There's always ones that are really, really good and some ones that are really, really bad. But nonetheless, we'll see from the words of the Gaon of Vilna how our understanding of Torah education has changed simply by the instructions that he's giving his wife in his letter. We'll understand it in a moment. Where he says, after he told us in the last lecture, the last section that we discussed, the importance of teaching the girls Musar, the importance of teaching the girls modesty and teaching them Torah, the things that they need to learn, the importance that each one of the kids, whether boy or girl, will eat after they do a blessing, and when they complete eating, they have to do another blessing, and you have to be very conscious of the fact that your kids are not animals, and you should educate your kids that they need to do a blessing in order to distinguish themselves from animals. And this is all part of the chinuch, part of the education that you give your kids in the house. Because even if you send your kid to the best seminary or to the best yeshiva, if they're coming home to a secular house, if they're coming home to a house that doesn't value Torah, then that's in essence taking all of that education that you're giving them in the yeshiva and throwing it in the garbage. Very rarely is there a situation where you have a kid that comes from a house that's anti-Torah or cares less about the Torah or disregards the Torah or simply disrespects the Torah, and yet the kid ends up staying a diamond. And I'm going to share with you a couple of personal stories that I've had to experience with different parents that unfortunately were spiritually stupid and made the mistakes, and unfortunately are making the mistakes of their life because of their spiritual stupidity. They may be very smart in their professions, whatever their professions may be, but when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to Torah, they're as stupid gets. And I'll explain to you in a moment, some of these stories that we have to deal with on a regular basis, unfortunately, because this is, in essence, a very, very big part of the help for Am Yisrael when you're dealing with young people, you're dealing with old people, you're dealing with students, you're dealing with teachers, you're dealing with Talmidei Chachamim, you're dealing with, widows, you're dealing with wives, you're dealing with brides and grooms, you're dealing with all types of people all over the world, and you're going to have some personal encounters with certain people that are not exactly the most pleasing. And not necessarily because there's yelling or screaming or anything like that, but rather because the outcome is unfortunately a disappointment. And I'll tell you in a second why. The Gaon of Vilna says to us, Gam levanecha, Gam levanaich, shechiu tegadli otam bederech ayashar, ubenachat, ותשלמי שכר לימוד ותחזיקי מלמד בביתך ולא תצמצמי בשכרו. כי כל מזונותיו של האדם קבוצים לו מראש השנה חוץ מתשרי. וגם הנחתי להם ספרים, ולמען השם תדריכי אותם בטוב ובנחת. וגם תשגיחי על בריאותם ומנזונתם תמיד שלא יחסר להם. Translation. Raise your sons, in essence obviously it's his sons too, raise your sons as well on a straight path with sensitivity. And we'll see from here, by the way, that the Gaon of Vilna mentions teaching Torah with sensitivity no less than 4 times. But its sensitivity, just like many other things, doesn't always mean the same thing to everybody. The average person thinks that, if you teach Torah sensitively, that means that you speak with perhaps a very low tone, maybe even a monotone, and you don't, raise your voice, and you don't scream at people, and you don't, rebuke them, and you tell them that everything is okay. No, that's not what sensitivity means. Sensitivity means that in essence you're sensitive to your student, and you're understanding what to do based on your own evaluation of which student you have in front of you, on a consistent basis, meaning that you're constantly evaluating who the student is that's in front of you. And based on that, based on your sensitivities to the different reactions that your students have, that's how you are going to teach. But as far as whether to teach with a high tone, a low tone, or anything else, that all depends on the student in itself. But again, we'll talk about that also as far as the some people that still to this day have like to make a silly comment. How come you're yelling? And I'm not the only one that they write this to. They've been writing this type of stupidity to a lot of different people over the years. And the reason why is because they're not understanding what the purpose of a Torah lecture is. Unlike other things, the Torah lecture has a goal, which is not entertainment. Now, the Gaon says here, make sure to raise your sons on a straight path and with sensitivity. And you should pay tuition, even hire a tutor to study with your sons in your house, and do not be stingy with the tutor's wages. For a man's entire yearly income is fixed for him from his judgment on Rosh Hashanah, except for Tishrei. Tishrei is an acronym for Talmud Torah, Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, and Yom Tov. I've left Sfarim for them, I've left books for them, meaning books of Torah, for Hashem's sake. Guide them kindly and with sensitivity, and also always oversee their health and meals, making sure that they do not lack whatever is needed to keep them well. So this is the first section. Be'ezrat Hashem will get this in an additional section together. But first, let's go over the first part. Chachamim tell us, Rabbi Chaim Volozhin writes that the book of Genesis is the first of the 5 books of Moses, is called Sefer Ayashar. Sefer Ayashar, the straight book, the book of the straight. Why is it the book of the straight? Because if somebody wants to learn how to be a straight arrow, how to be an honest person with integrity, learn from our patriarchs. Learn from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov and their manners. Learn from Noach. Learn from the leaders that we have in this book, especially the Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. and the tribes, and you see how their stories are not there for historical purposes, but rather for informational purposes, for you to learn musar from it. But not just any type of musar, but rather musar that will get you to become an ethical person. Unfortunately, today, as I've said a few times in lectures, stealing today has become standard. In fact, cheating today has become acceptable. So much so that if you do business honestly, you're viewed as a sucker. If you're not cheating somebody or someone, you're viewed as someone that's missing an opportunity. And some of the people that have been watching my lectures over some time, and I've heard this, in the past, have come to me from different times. Rabbi, when you first said that, the first time I was a little bit taken back. Maybe you had bad experiences. Doesn't mean that everybody else has to have bad experiences. But then as I continue to learn and I continue to experience the world, I see that every single thing that you're saying is really true. I wanted to go on this job, literally. Within the first day, they're already teaching me how to cheat customers. I went on a different opportunity. Already within the first time, they're teaching us how they're already cheating the government. I even have young kids tell me, listen, I have this internship opportunity, and they're telling us that, they get a certain amount of money from the government or from some grant or something like that in order to have interns. But in reality, since they really only care about the money, we don't have to really fill all these hours that is required by this grant. We just have to, say we did. They're requiring, let's say, 20 hours from us, but we could only come for 5 hours if we want, and we can just go and hang out. Am I allowed to do that, Rabbi? No, you're not allowed to do it. It's stealing. It's stealing. Yeah, but the boss is telling me it's okay. Well, the boss is going to go to Gaon for stealing. And the reality is that the more people start seeing the Torah in their day-to-day life, the more they realize how much of an upside-down world we live in. How much the world has gone down, has really been not just the degradation of the generations, but simply the degradation of just society in general, as far as how they behave, very, very similar to how they were throughout all of the other generations when they went against the Torah, whether it's the generation of Noach, where Hashem decided to destroy the world, or the generation of Sodom and Gomorrah at the time of Avraham Avinu, where Hashem decided to destroy them, or Egypt, and so on. All of these different generations, the one common denominator that they all had is they all went against the Torah. And when people are not only not following the Torah, but they're following something else, and that ideology is antithetical to the Torah, it ends up destroying the world. People start accepting the bad as being good. Simply as, this is the best we have. Yeah, but the best you have is bad. The best you have is destroying people. The best you have is hurting people. So what? If I don't do it, somebody else will, is the attitude. And unfortunately, this is the attitude of many in the world today, both Jews and non-Jews alike. Hence the reason why Torah education is more valuable today than ever before in our lifetime. And that's why even the Gaon of Vilna, the Gaon of Vilna is telling his wife, make sure that our sons have the teaching that is going to make sure that they're straight people, they're honest people, they are people with integrity. Because if we are going to teach our kids how to keep Shabbos, and if we teach our kids how to eat kosher, and if we teach our kids how to put on tefillin, but they're still going to be cheaters in business, they're still going to be harassing people sexually, they're still going to be molesters, they're still going to be liars, they're still going to be all types of evil in the world, then we have failed completely. All of that education of keeping Shabbos and doing all these other things is going to be in vain. It's going to be in vain. Why? The whole point of the Torah, Rabotai, is in order for a person to use the mitzvot in order to become a spiritually uplifted person to the extent where their character traits are perfected. If a person still has anger that goes out of control, stinginess that's simply disgusting, arrogance that is repulsive and you simply can't stand next to the person, and all types of character trait weaknesses, that person has failed in their purpose of life, and obviously their parents will be punished for it as well. Their teachers will be punished for it as well, and their teachers is their rabbis. Meaning that you cannot go into this world thinking that you're on your own, you could do whatever you want, and everybody else can do whatever they want, and as long as everybody takes care of themselves, everything is okay, and everybody's judged independently. Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Lazeh. All of us are responsible for each other. All of us affect each other. Whether we see it or we don't see it, there's a reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu will introduce you to certain people. There's a reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu will connect you to certain people and even make you the victim of certain people. And sometimes a person is going to be wondering, why do I have this mean teacher? Why do I have this awful person that's in my life? And so on and so forth. All of it is a way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving you a message, and sometimes that message is to educate you. Educate you in a way that perhaps you don't necessarily want to be educated by, but nonetheless, since you are not willing to learn Torah, you have to be educated in a different way. So here the Gaon of Vilna is telling us, raise our sons. Specifically here he's focusing on the sons, because the sons require a little bit different education than the girls do. There's a lot more Torah study requirements. There's many mitzvot that you teach the kids that you do not need to teach your daughters. But nonetheless, here he's talking about one of the most critical things is to teach the sons to be straight people. But don't teach them to be straight by being one of these pharaohs in the house that anytime the kid says something back to you, even if he doesn't mean any harm, automatically give him a slap that he'll remember it when he's 30 years old. That's not the way. You have to teach the kids with sensitivity. Whether you're a Rebbe, or you're a father or a mother, or you're whoever you are, you have to teach with sensitivity. As I said before, sensitivity means, first and foremost, be sensitive to who's in front of you. Sensitive to who's in front of you. You cannot teach every student the same way. If you have a small group and you're teaching people on a face-to-face basis, sometimes you'll have to teach two different students that could be sitting right next to each other, but two different ways. Why? Because that student is such and such, and that student is such and such. Now, how could a person motivate themselves to do such a thing? Just think, that person that you don't really necessarily think very highly of could be the next MaShiach. Could be the next MaShiach. You should know, David HaMelech also wasn't viewed very highly by his own family. His own father thought that he was a child of a different father. His brothers thought the same thing. The world around him went against him most of his life. He literally had an atrocious life full of suffering, where his own people were waiting for him to die at some point because they were waiting for his son to take over so he could build the Bet HaMikdash. The point being is, just because people don't necessarily view you very highly doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to reach very far. So if you need inspiration in order to educate your kids, your students, or whoever, in a better way, you need some more motivation. It's not enough that it's simply another Jewish kid. It's not enough that this kid is somebody's son, is somebody's daughter, and so on. It's not enough. Just think of it this way. This person could be a messenger to the world that Hashem said, so much so that if it's a boy, he could be the next Mashiach. If it's a girl, it could be the wife of the Mashiach. And that gives a person a little bit of a different understanding of the value of a kid. Because imagine that kid becomes such a big deal, and you will end up benefiting or getting punished for whatever you contributed to that person's life. This is why when the Gaon of Vilna saw the teacher that taught him Aleph Bet, he says he prayed for, after that person died, he prayed for her endlessly, elevating her in heaven, because he said, without learning the Aleph Bet, I wouldn't have learned any Torah. One of the Gdolim in this generation, Rav Kook from Tveria, there was recently a video that was posted online where they brought his Rebbe from childhood. His Rebbe from childhood. We're not talking about the Rebbe and the high yeshiva and so on. His Rebbe from childhood. They brought him, and when the Rebbe was there, the awe that you saw in Rav Kook's, the awe literally turned him into a child again. He started literally trembling and crying like a little baby. And, for anyone who doesn't understand, if it looks like a show, it looks like there's something wrong with him, but that simply shows you don't understand what Yirat Shamayim is. But the key is to understand is that when a person knows who their rabbi is and how this rabbi is the reason why you're going to have an opportunity to go into heaven, surely you're going to respect and value that rabbi. Needless to say, if the rabbi knew that their student could be the next Rav Kook, the next Rav Ovadia, the next Rav Wasserman, the next Mashiach even, just like David HaMelech says, surely you would view that student differently and perhaps push yourself further. But unfortunately, not everybody thinks that way, because sometimes people think of the small stuff in this world. Just like the Chazon Ish says in the Sefer Emunah V'Bitachon, people lose track of the important things in life of spirituality because they toil so much in the small stuff. And the small stuff, he says, is the materialism of this world. And I'll tell you one story. I once had this young kid as a student of mine, and I'm not sure if he still watches my shulim or not, but this kid was watching my shulim for several years, and he was one of these really, really dedicated kids, and really grew tremendously in the Torah. And you saw that he's not a regular kid. Usually you have, kids like the shulim, they watch this, that, but there's certain people that they don't only watch the shulim, they read the Gemara, they read the Shulchan Aruch, they read this, they read that, and they start learning from books too, and they don't stop. They don't just do like what arrogant people do where, they get inspired by the shiur, they stop the shulim and just move on to the books because they think they've graduated the shulim. No, they just continue to add more books, more Gemarot, more Musar, more this, more that. And this is one of those special kids that you saw him develop through his questions. And I have, Baruch Hashem, a few of these kids that I've met over the years that are following the shulim, and I've seen them grow tremendously. But this one particular kid was really special. And I had a couple of cases like this that I'll tell you about tonight. And one of these cases, this kid was really, really special. But one day he tells me, listen, Rabbi, I don't know what to do. My family is bothering me. They want me to instead of go to a kollel next year and continue learning, they want me to go to college so I can get a degree and become a lawyer. I said, lawyer? You could be the next Gadol Adol. You could be a Gadol. You have the tools to really become somebody important in the world. Not just someone that learns Torah, but you could be somebody that's even big. Even if you become somebody that's Torah observant, it's already big. But the point is that sometimes you see somebody has certain tools where you see that this kid has the mind and their neshama is tuned in such a way where literally they have the ability to do such a thing that most people can't do. He's like, I don't know what to do. I said, listen, I don't like to talk on the phone. I spent 20 years talking on phones when I was on Wall Street. I don't like talking on the phones anymore because it takes too much time and because I have so much more to do today than ever before. And I could just achieve a lot more if I simply communicate via text message, voice notes and things like that. But listen, in this case, tell your father that I need him to call me. So the father calls me. And I start talking to the father, and I say to the father, what do you want from this kid? What do you want him to be? He goes, I want him to be successful. I said, okay, you want him to be successful? That's fine. You can be successful in the Torah world. He goes, come on, Rabbi, there's so many people coming to our houses. They're religious, they're rabbis, they're scholars, but they're still asking for tzedakah. I said, okay, but not all of them are asking for tzedakah. Perhaps this is the Rosh Yeshiva. He has a budget, he has this. He goes, yeah, you maybe this, maybe that. And we're talking. I said, what's the point of him becoming a lawyer? Why do you want him to become a lawyer? What's so special about a lawyer? Because, a lawyer will make good money. I go, what happens if the lawyer doesn't make a lot of money? Is it still worth it to be a lawyer? He goes, no, not really. There's nothing so particularly special about being a lawyer. I said, well, if he becomes a very successful lawyer, perhaps even a judge one day. He goes, yeah, exactly, Rabbi. I think he can do that. I said, let me explain something to you. Your son has the ability not to be a lawyer. He has the ability to go straight to becoming a judge. But not just any judge. He can become one of the leading judges of the generation. He can become a gadol ador, a posek. Someone that the entire nation of Israel can listen to. Do you understand what a gadol is? How many times have you finished the shas? What's the shas? I said, those books your kid has. It says Talmud on them. Have you read all of them? He says, no, Rabbi. Have you read one of them? He says, no, I tried one time. It didn't really work out so much. I said, how about this? Your son has the ability to complete all of that many times. Your son has the ability to write books based on those books. Your son has the ability to do a lot that you're not doing. And quite frankly, you may be keeping Shabbat for the last few years. You may be keeping kosher, but don't think for sure that you have a ticket to heaven. Why? You're still making some sins probably, right? You're still watching TV and all those movies? Yes, Rabbi. Sorry. Don't say sorry to me. But yes, what you're doing, right? You're watching movies? Yeah. Your business, 100% honest? Well, Rob, okay, forget. No further questions. Listen, you have a lot of problems in your hand. I only asked you 2 questions. You have a couple of problems, and those 2 are big problems. Your son can help you fix them. How? Let him go learn Torah. He can become a gadol. He says, Rabbi, you really think that? I said, 100%. I don't call parents. I don't do parent-teacher conferences. I'm calling you because your kid has the ability to be a gadol. And even if I'm wrong and he doesn't become a gadol, he could still become a dayan. He could still become somebody important. He could still become something significant. Unlike the lawyer, where there's countless lawyers that are on an unemployment line. And the father was inspired, and I could even tell you at one point he cried because he was so happy to hear these wonderful things about his kid. And you would think this would have a happy ending. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Why? Since the father was inspired, he left the kid alone for a little while. But that inspiration, if it's not followed up, goes away. And since the father did not watch our lectures, did not learn the same things his son was learning, that inspiration little by little went away and eventually forced this kid to go to college. And Hashem Yishmo V'Yatzil, you could just imagine what happens to kids like that in college when the Yetzer Hara catches them with his claws of immorality, girls, drinking, bars, filth, garbage, tum'ah, genom, all that stuff. Hashem Yishmo V'Yatzil. That means, Rabotai, that someone that could have been the next Gdol Ador right now could be sitting in a bar drinking shots with some non-Jewish girl that he's going to be married to for the next few nights. Why? His father's an idiot. Wants to be a lawyer. But that's what happens all the time. And unfortunately, it happens way too often. Parents that are spiritually stupid cause their kids that could have been the next MaShiach to instead have an alcohol problem, instead have a drug problem, instead bring a child to the world with the wrong person, instead do so much harm to themselves and to society that they themselves will regret the day they were born because of how much punishment they're going to get for that son, both in this world and the next. Because when that father goes up to Shemayim, they're not only going to try him on his sins, they're not only going to try him on his not so honest business dealings, they're not only going to try him on the things he was watching on TV and Hashem only knows what else. No, they're going to try him for murdering the next Gdol Ador. That's what they're going to try him for. They're going to try him and the mother. She's not innocent either. They're going to try him for all of the things that could have been for that son, had they simply left him alone on the path of Torah. That's what happens. I have, unfortunately, a few stories like this. When the parents are not straight, unfortunately, the sons, the daughters, many times suffer. Many times the sons are not strong enough to overcome the influence of the parents. I had one kid, great kid, mama's peaches of a kid. The kid, complete tshuva, left all the filth of the world, was focused on good things, was trying to do tshuva for whatever he can remember, whether it was wasting seed or stealing or this or that, learning Torah, wants to be a rabbi, wants to do good things, wants to be a good Jew, Unfortunately, his father is a criminal. Now, if you look at his father, doesn't look like a criminal. Looks like a very nice guy. But in reality, he's 100% a criminal. Not just criminal in Torah, criminal in the world. Criminal against society. But he gets the asmachta of his rabbi that gets a lot of the money. The local rabbi over there that gets the donations keeps telling him to continue being a criminal, cheating the government, cheating customers, cheating partners, cheating everybody he can. And the poor kid is trying to distance himself away as much as possible from this rotten father. But what happens? The father says, no, you're my kid. Okay, I'm your kid. I just don't want to be your criminal either. I don't want to be a co-conspirator. No, don't worry about it. My rabbi said it's okay. Yeah, your rabbi is Amalek, your rabbi. Your rabbi is Amalek. That's your rabbi. He was the rabbi for Haman. That's your rabbi. That's who he can. No, he's a rabbi for a long time. He's stealing money from the government. He's stealing money from customers. What are you talking about? Unfortunately, Rabotai, this father was literally on a mission to destroy his kid. And eventually that kid and the whole family will be behind bars if they do not do tshuva by first and foremost distancing themselves away from that rotten Amalek rabbi, never even talking to him on the streets as hello. That's number one, because you have to first distance yourself away from the evil in order to stop sinning. You can't be next to evil all day and stop sinning at the same time. It doesn't make any sense. You can't continuously drink AIDS all day and expect to be cured. It doesn't work that way. But unfortunately, if they do not stop, they will all go to jail. Not just in this world, in the next world. And every single one of those punishments will be on the rabbi. Every single one of those punishments will be on that father and the mother. And every single person that caused this kid and whoever else was influenced to leave the Torah path. Why? That's how it works. You killed the MaShiach. You killed him. What do you expect? To get a cookie? Yeah, but I wanted to make parnasa. Oh, you get parnasa. Hot coals, lava, all types of parnasa. We'll give you parnasa. We'll even show you how to melt gold. How about that? We'll give you the gold that you stole and we'll feed it to you. How about that? That's how it works, Rabotai. When you kill little kids and you turn them into criminals, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes personal revenge. Now, don't think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to simply let these kids be destroyed. If the kids are strong enough, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will fight for them. How will HaKadosh Baruch Hu fight for them? Many, many creative ways. I'll leave that to your imagination. Just think, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he decides to be the father. He decides to be the mother. How about that? What happens to the father and the mother? That's a question. Kill my kids, that's what happens. And unfortunately, I've seen that too. I saw a kid, young kid, beautiful kid, from birth kid. I tell the kid, how come you're not married? You're such a good boy, you learn Torah, you do mitzvot, you have a few issues, but Baruch Hashem, you're a good boy. Why don't you get married? You're already 23, 24 years old. He goes, no, my father doesn't want me to get married. I said, what's the matter with your father? What is there something wrong with him? He goes, no, my father, he's a good guy. He's a frum, he's everything. He's a rabbi. I said, okay, so what's your father's? Why doesn't your father want you to be? Why doesn't your father want his son to get married? He says, no, because my older sibling didn't get married yet. So he says, I'm not allowed to go on shidduchim. I said, but you're already in your 20s. And your sibling is a few years older than you. But what if you find somebody before then? He goes, yeah, that's why he said I'm not allowed to go on shidduchim. I said, your father, maybe he learned this Torah from Lavan, because that's the only place in the Torah we have such a behavior. To stop somebody from going on a shidduch to potentially get married because the oldest sibling didn't get married, that's Torah of Lavan. Lavan Arasha. Tell your father to go start learning Sefer HaYashar again. What's Sefer HaYashar? Chumash. Sefer Bereshit. Learn how to be Yashar. Learn how to be a straight person from the Avot HaKedoshim. Learn you are not allowed to stop your son from marrying somebody. If they're a frum person, they're a good person. It doesn't matter if their older sibling didn't get married. There's no turns. Whoever catches the first catch, that's it. Yalla, we go. We don't delay weddings. We don't delay things like this. But unfortunately, people have their own minhagim that they created in their own mind. From where? From the place of Tumah. Why? They haven't learned enough from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They know their names. They mention them 3 times a day in their prayer. But they haven't learned really how to be a straight person. Hence the reason why the first thing that the Gaon of Vilna is teaching us here, please make sure that the kids are on a straight path. They're going to be people with integrity like our forefathers. Because without that integrity, we could be potentially charged for murdering the next Mashiach. We could be potentially charged for destroying a very special and pure neshama because of our own lust for money, our own lust for kavod, our own lust for all types of things that, unfortunately, we shouldn't even have a lust for to begin with. We've turned things that are materialistic into idolatry. And with that, we end up killing the people that are the most important to us. He said, no, I'm working so hard. Why are you working so hard? For your kids. Well, listen, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is working harder than you for the kids. And he decided that your kid needs Torah. He doesn't need you to work 3 jobs. He doesn't need you to steal. He doesn't need you to work on Shabbat. If Hashem wants your kid to have something, don't worry about it. Hashem's going to give it. Hashem's going to give it. Your kid needs more Torah, not for you to work 3 jobs, not for you to steal, and not for you to cheat any government. And if a person understands that their real motivation for working and overtime and cheating and so on has nothing to do with their kids. That's just an excuse. They're doing it because they've turned money and materialism into idol worship. And if their rabbi is not saying anything, unfortunately many times because the rabbi is a shutaf. He's a shutaf. He's a partner in the crime. Not always. Many times. Many times. Now, the Gaon of Vilna says how important is Torah education. You should pay tuition, even hire a tutor to study with our sons in your house, and do not be stingy with the tutor's wages. Here, the Gaon of Vilna is telling us that your number one priority as far as why to make money in the first place should not be because you want to plan for retirement. Should not be because you want to have a second house or a vacation once a year. It should be so you could afford the best Torah education possible. Now, unfortunately, this is not just about how much you could afford. Why? Because sometimes the yeshiva can give you a discount. Sometimes you could even get the yeshiva to completely give you everything for free. But do you really want that discount? According to the Gaon of Vilna, no. Gaon of Vilna says don't look for any discounts. In fact, you should pay the full tuition, he says. Pay the tuition. And get a tutor too. On top of the yeshiva cost, also get a tutor. Was the Gaon of Vilna rich? No. Absolutely not. Sometimes they didn't even have food. But he's telling her, all the money we have, spend it on the Torah. Spend it on the tuition. And don't be stingy. Don't be stingy with the tutor's wages. Why don't be stingy? Why, if I can get a discount? If I can get a discount, why can't I get a discount? Why can't I get a discount? Well, first and foremost, we have to have the right perspective about money. You see, today, because it's standard in society to steal, to take advantage, to step on people on your way to success, people misunderstand a mitzvah opportunity and turn it into a sin. How so? Sometimes a person is going to be given a mitzvah opportunity. What's a mitzvah opportunity? Hashem makes him find his friend's wallet that's full of cash. He finds his friend's wallet, another fellow Jew's wallet. Doesn't necessarily need to be his friend in reality, but his fellow Jew, the Shomer Torah and Mitzvot, he finds his wallet's full of cash. Now, if he has the right Torah education, and he has the right understanding of what money is, he knows this is a mitzvah opportunity. What's the mitzvah opportunity? Ashavat Avedah. You take the wallet, you see that there's an ID, you give it to the person that it belongs to. A person that doesn't have a Torah mind, but instead replaced it with a materialistic mind, thinks that this is a blessing from heaven. What blessing from heaven? Oh look, Hashem is sending me parnasah. Look at that, Hashem is sending me parnasah. What do you mean parnasah? There's a guy's license is in there. His ID is there. You know exactly who this wallet belongs to. He goes, listen, why HaKadosh Baruch Hu took his wallet, that's his problem. He's probably a big sinner. But for me, I found it. I found it because obviously Hashem wants to give me the money. He happens to have $3,000 in his wallet. So obviously Hashem wants to give me 3,000 because I actually needed 3,000 to complete my transaction on Bitcoin. And that's the demented reality of today. People find their friend's wallet, and instead of doing a mitzvah and giving what they found back, they end up thinking it's an opportunity for them. Or they see somebody made a mistake, they take advantage of the mistake. Why? They have a warped reality, a misunderstanding of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends blessings and how HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends tests. Many times, a person's desire is going to cloud his judgment. Cloud his judgment and turn an opportunity to get elevated spiritually and get closer to Hashem, and instead that person will get lower. And it's not Hashem's doing. It's just that the person is simply not getting the message and is mistranslating the message because of their lack of Torah. That's why the Mishnah in Avot says, Gagat Talmud Ola Zadon, that the accidental sins that a person makes ultimately become intentional, are judged as intentional sins. Why? Because the only reason why you didn't realize that you're obligated to return that wallet is because you didn't learn. You didn't learn Torah. And therefore, that accidental mistake is not really accidental, it's a purposeful sin. It's a purposeful sin. But obviously there's other better examples. Nonetheless, this is one of the outcomes of not learning Torah, but also one of the outcomes of not getting the right Torah education. Even if you did learn Torah. Many times people will go learn Torah, but still be the same materialistic person they would have been had they gone to public school. Why? Because in their house, what's valued most is money, not Torah. This is why the Gaon of Vilna specifically says to his wife, pay the tuition and even get a tutor, meaning spend a lot of money on Torah. Spend a lot of money on Torah. Why? Why should I spend so much money on Torah? Why should I spend so much money on Torah? First off, you should know that when your kids or anybody sees that you're spending a lot of money on something, automatically the value of that something increases. Automatically, when they see that you're investing a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money into something, automatically the value increases. Now you would think, oh, everything that you spend a lot of money to has a high value. That's not true. Just because it was expensive doesn't mean that it's valuable. And just because it's valuable doesn't mean it was expensive. Now, if you invest a lot of money, a lot of effort into something, then automatically you are declaring that to you it's valuable, and anyone else that cares about you and your likes and your desires and so on sees that that's how you're acting, to them it increases in value. Now, if that happens to be your child, you're investing into your child's Torah, automatically your child's Torah becomes more valuable in his own eyes, because your kid says, listen, all my friends, their parents care less if they do their homework. Their parents care less if they have good books, care less if they get this, care less if they get that. All they care about is that the kid has nice sneakers, has the finest clothes, and goes on vacation every single summer for at least 2 months. My parents make sure that I have all the books that I need. My parents care that I have all the tutoring that I need, all the Torah that I need. They're investing everything necessary to make sure that I have the best of the best Torah. Obviously, a kid sees, so my parents value Torah. Their parents value stuff. Simple. If my parents value Torah so much, obviously there has to be something there, because it's not like they're getting anything out of that Torah. When I read the weekly parasha, they're not getting anything out of it. It's not like they get some extra money in their bank account because I know what Rashi said. When I know another daf in the Gemara, it doesn't necessarily give my father an extra idea at work. Logically, obviously, he's investing in it. He's investing in me. Why? Because it has an intrinsic value that's far beyond our comprehension. He understands it, and therefore the kid respects it and values it. And when a kid sees that their parents make their number one investment, both in money, time, effort, attention, everything, Torah becomes the number one subject in the house, automatically the kid looks at Torah as something extraordinarily more valuable than a kid that on their Shulchan Shabbat, all they hear about is how much money baseball players make, and how much money movie stars make, and what kind of property we're going to buy, and which neighborhood we're going to move to and sell, and this and that. When people talk about money on their dinner table, and people talk about money all the time, and that's their priority, or sports, or movies, or so on, why would the kid ever think that his Torah is valuable? Why? Of course, there's exceptions to every case. There's sometimes these diamonds that it doesn't matter what their parents think and say. They end up still loving the Torah and becoming very, very special people. But these are few and far in between. Your average person falls under the description that the Rambam said, which is a person is influenced by society, by the people around them. Most people are influenced by the people that are around them. That's just a reality. Some people are not influenced by people. Some people are lone wolves. Some people are simply, they dance to their own tune. But most people want to be part of the herd. They want to be part of the sheep. They don't want to be alone. They need friends. They need, people to agree with them. They need the likes on YouTube and on Facebook. They need fans. They need approval. They need people to give them ratings. It's very sad. Unfortunately, it's a very sad life for those people, but most people are like that. So most kids, even if they eventually will become this lone ranger one day, most kids have a hard time, adjusting to become that person. It's a very painful process to become that lone person, because even if you don't need it necessarily, you want approval, especially from your parents. But if all your parents are talking about the movies and money and so on, why would you care about the Torah that you're learning? And unfortunately, that's one of the things that evil woman in that new show, Unorthodox, that's what she's doing with her kids, and that's what she unfortunately succeeded with most of our kids, except this one son that seems to be still trying to stay on a Torah path. But it's an evil, evil woman. Literally hates the Torah so much that she works very hard, even acts as if she is crying and she's trying to help this kid to live a good life by simply abandoning the Torah life and living a life more similar to hers. Only reason I know this is because somebody sent me a clip where this filthy person is acting as if she's trying to help her son by literally destroying him. Now, the point being is, Rabotai, is that if we invest all of our time, our attention, our care into the Torah that our kids are learning, automatically that Torah becomes valuable in their eyes. That's what they want to be. That's what they aspire to be. If your kid wants to be a basketball player, it's your fault. If your kid wants to be some motorcycle driver, it's your fault. If your kid wants to be some movie star, it's your fault. Nobody else's fault. It's your fault as a parent. Because if you raise your kid the right way and show them that the Torah that they learn is much more valuable than some leather piece of ball and some bat or some movie, if you told him that when he gives a Dvar Torah at Shabbat, it's much more valuable than anything else, that kid would have wanted to be the next Rav Ovadia, the next Rav Eliashiv, the next Chafetz Chaim. He would have wanted to be the next Avrech. A simple Avrech that no one's ever going to hear about. You would want to be him. But unfortunately, many parents don't want their kids to be the next Avrech. They want their kids to be the next lawyer on TV. And that's a sad reality. Because we see from history that all of those people suffer tremendously, both in this world and the next. So the first reason of why the Gaon of Vilna tells his wife to make sure to invest a lot of money in the Torah is because he wants the kids themselves to value the Torah. And the more we invest in the Torah, the more the kids will value the Torah. Another reason is because the Gaon of Vilna understands what the Gemara is saying. The Gemara is saying in Masechet Beitzah, page 16a, and also Masechet Rosh Hashanah, page 16b. That are maybe opposite, 16a and 16b, but nonetheless both of them are in 16. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu on Rosh Hashanah decides what every person, what every being in society is going to receive as their sustenance. How much money they're going to make, how much money they're going to lose, how much enjoyment they're going to have, how much suffering they're going to have, and so on and so forth. Everything is decided in Rosh Hashanah, which is in a month and a half from now, by the way. But nonetheless, a decision is made for all of the entire world. The entire world is decided on that day. It's a very, very big day. Now, part of what's not decided there is the money that you're going to spend on Torah, the money that you're going to give in tzedakah, all of that. Why? That's your decision. Because that's not part of your parnasah. That's not part of your sustenance. Whatever you spend on Tishrei, like I said, is the acronym for Torah studies, on the tuition for your kids, the books that you buy, the different Torah things, Torah relevant things, the Shabbat, how much you spend on the food, how much you spend on different things that have to do with Shabbat, how much you end up getting, you spend on Rosh Chodesh, and how much you end up spending on Yom Tov. All of those things, which obviously the Torah also includes the tzedakah that you give, all of that is added to your income. All of that is added to your income. Meaning that the more emunah a person has, the more faith a person has in Hashem, the more tzedakah they give. The more they are inclined to not ask for a discount from the yeshiva at all, actually. Why? Because you, in essence, by asking for a discount, you're in essence saying that you don't think that Hashem is going to give it to you. And that's actually what Rav Steinemann, alav shalom, was ish kodesh, full of emet, full of 100% emet, without skipping a beat. And he said that sometimes we have parents that approached the school administrators asking for a reduction in tuition and even a complete exemption from having to pay it all, with the claim that they don't have the money to pay tuition. But in reality, Rav Steinemann says, the only thing that these people are lacking is trust in Hashem, as prescribed here by the Gaon of Vilna. Because if they only look at the world through the right lenses of the Torah, they will not resist paying the tuition for their son's Torah learning, because they know that they're going to be reimbursed by Hashem anyway. And that's why Rav Steinemann said that in essence, when a person is asking for discounts in tuition, they're showing they don't have enough emunah in Hashem. And that's in essence what the Gaon of Vilna is trying to teach his wife, trying to teach us. Go pay the tuition and even get a tutor. Doesn't matter what the cost is. Do it. Hashem will give us the money. Yeah, but we know how much money we have in the bank. And we don't have enough money, to pay for this tutor. We don't have enough money to pay for this yeshiva. No, that's the point of emunah. That is the point of emunah. You have to simply do what you're supposed to do and trust that Hashem is going to make it all work. Trust that Hashem is going to make it all work. And unfortunately, many people simply can't comprehend that because they call themselves rationalist, or they call themselves realistic, or they call themselves all types of things. But in reality, the only thing they are people that are missing emunah. They're missing faith in Hashem. They need to see it in order for it to be real. They need to see it in order for them to be real. It's surprising they even believe in God, because you can't see God. But nonetheless, they need to see it. They need to see the bank account a certain size before they decide to donate a certain amount of money, or to send their kids to the right yeshiva or seminary and so on. They need to see it. And unfortunately shows that the person is spiritually weak. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. It's just they're spiritually weak and they need to get stronger. And that's in essence one of the main messages that the Gaon of Vilna is trying to teach here. That if a person truly understands who God is, what He is, and what He said, he'll know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to us, Levu alai v'ani poreah. Go borrow on my name even, and I'll pay it back. If you're going to go borrow for the sake of Torah, you're going to go invest for the sake of Torah, even if you don't have, I'm going to pay for it. Meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to succeed. And He gave us a manual called the Torah, which is the only way to succeed. It's not a way to succeed. It's the only way to succeed in achieving your purpose in life. So, if you decide to be a good little boy or a good little girl and follow this instruction set that He gave us for you to succeed like He wants you to, He's going to punish you for that, or He's going to reward you for that. He's going to pay for it, or He's going to leave you hanging. What do you really think? Meaning that sometimes a person has to be really rational, truly rational, but rational in the right way. Understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought you to this world in order to fulfill the Torah. Which means that if you're going to invest more in order for you to be able to fulfill the Torah, and have children to fulfill the Torah, and have a spouse to fulfill the Torah, and grandchildren to fulfill the Torah, and other Jews to fulfill the Torah, and more Torah, you're going to do everything possible that there's going to be more Torah in the world. You think Hashem is going to leave you hanging? You think Hashem is going to simply say, nah, I don't want to do it? Think about it. Think about it. Now, of course, a person needs to really believe it, and not just do things, in a rash way, but in reality, doesn't really believe it. You have to really believe it, which means you have to pass the test. Don't think that Hashem is going to pay on your timing. Don't think that Hashem is going to do things on your timing. There's going to be tests. There's going to be difficulties. There's even going to be certain times where you think that Hashem doesn't want you to do it. But nonetheless, if you're following the instruction set, you can be assured that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to do it, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will ultimately reward you for it and pay for it. But a person needs to truly, truly believe and to overcome the obstacles. So one of the main things is to build emunah. How do you build emunah? Emunah is like a muscle. In order for a muscle to be built, you have to rip it apart. That's in essence what everybody does when they go to the gym and they lift weights and they exercise and they do all the stretching. In essence, what they're doing is they're ripping the muscles just a little bit at a time. Now, if you rip too much, you could hurt yourself because you can't handle it. But nonetheless, if you rip a little bit at a time on a consistent basis, you grow. But if you rip, a little bit once in a blue moon, nothing happens. It's like, putting the pot of water on the heat and then taking it off right before it starts boiling. And then putting it back on. And then taking it off. What's going to happen? The water will never boil. Same thing with a person that's not consistent with their emunah. And their tests, if they're not consistently trying to do things to build their emunah and bitachon, they're never going to grow. They're going to stay the same person that they were before they even started. And in essence, it becomes torture rather than growth. So a person needs to know that when the Gaon of Vilna is telling his wife, go pay tuition and even have a tutor and don't be stingy, that's because, number one, we want to show the kids that the most important asset that we have in the house is Torah. Number two, it's also for us as parents to show Hashem that we believe in Him. To show Hashem that we believe everything that the sages told us. Including that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to invest everything we have in Torah. That's where He wants our money. That's where He wants our investment. He doesn't want us in Bitcoin. He doesn't want us in real estate. He wants us in Torah. That's where we want our number one investment to be. Of course, if you have more than enough and you have enough to go around and you can invest to buy all the Torah that you need to acquire and you still have some left over to buy houses, to buy cars, to buy all the other stuff, no problem with buying the other stuff. But your Torah should not come your Torah should not be lost because you want something materialistic. If anything, lose the materialism and go buy yourself more Torah. That's in essence what the Gaon of Vilna is trying to teach here. Now, the other lesson is that if a person is stingy with tuition, it could hurt the teacher. It could hurt the teacher himself. Why? The Gemara says that a Talmid Chacham, in order for him to have Yeshuv Adat, which is full concentration and the state of mind necessary for the Talmid Chacham, for the scholar to grow, to be able to teach the right way, he has to have three main things. One, he has to have a nice house. Nice house. Doesn't necessarily need to be a castle, 5,000 square feet with 5 rooms and a pool in the backyard. Doesn't need to be that. It could simply be a house that he feels is good house. Good house, nice house. Nice, it's clean, has what he needs, he has his place, that's it, that's all he needs. That's one. 2, nice looking wife. Now his wife obviously doesn't need to be one of these zonot on television, chas v'shalom. No, a nice looking wife, meaning a wife that he's attracted to. He's attracted to his wife. He doesn't need Jose and Steve from the supermarket to be attracted to her. He needs himself to be attracted to her. Nice looking wife. 3, nice things. Nice things, you need to have nice things. Why nice things? Because nice things needs to have things that are going to give him the comfort. That I have whatever I need, my wife has whatever she needs, we have, okay, I can study Torah with no problem. When a person has those things, it's much easier to concentrate. Why? Because if a person is suffering, he doesn't have food, or he's lonely, or his house is breaking apart, all of these things, although it's still possible to become a Torah giant, still, they take a lot of attention, a lot of time, a lot of headache, and so on and so forth. So the Gemara says, for a person to have these 3 things makes it much easier for that person to become a scholar. So how is it that people, tzaddikim, kdoshim, kdoshei elyon from the previous generation, and even now, were able to achieve so much with much, much less? Like, for example, if you read from the bio of Rav Shvadron. Rav Shvadron, one of the Gdolei Ador, one of the leading speakers in the previous generation, but also an extraordinary Talmid Chacham, married into the Auerbach family, who themselves were a family of giants and Torah scholars and Kedusha. Unbelievable. You read just from the beginning of the bio, you read literally, the average person reads it, it looks like a tragedy. A person that has the eyes of a Torah reads it, says, wow, that's Kedusha. Why? He's talking about the poverty they went through. The poverty they went through that literally, they didn't have a refrigerator. Rav Shvadron, When he got married, they did not have a refrigerator. Nothing. No refrigerator. What does that mean, no refrigerator? No cooling. So what do? They took the food for Shabbat, they put it in a box, tied a rope around it, put it outside the window, and put it down the well. Down the well, because the well had cold water. And put it down the well. The water had cold water. It kept the food cold for Shabbat. So it doesn't go bad. One time, it says, one of the kids went to go get the food from the well for Shabbat. And as he tries to grab it, the rope releases and the food with the box and everything falls down the well. He runs crying into the house. Oh no, the box fell into the well. The whole house says, oh no, we have nothing else to eat. There's nothing else to eat, that's it. The Ima Kedosha, the mother that was so holy, the mother Oilbach, that was so Isha Kedosha, what does she say? Oh no, chametz! Chametz, what chametz? Now the well has chametz. We can't use it for Pesach in a few months. That's what a person of holiness thinks about. Now the average person watching these things was ridiculous. How could they live without a fridge? You're still stuck on no fridge. You missed the whole point. These people were so poor, but yet they still achieved Torah greatness. Why? How? The Mishnah in Avot says, Ezeu ashir asamech bechilko. Who is rich? Someone that's happy with his share. In our eyes, they were as poor can be, and they themselves understood that they didn't have money, but didn't view themselves as poor like we view them. Why? This is what my lot is. This is what my blessing is. Baruch Hashem. Let's go study Torah. Why should I not study Torah just because I don't have food? Why should I not study Torah just because my whole house is one tiny little room and I don't have a refrigerator even? Why should I not study Torah because I haven't eaten in 2 days? Like, why? Why not? What does one thing have to do with the other? And that's the mentality of a person that has already the right education. And we're not talking about 500 years ago. We're talking about previous generation. We're talking about previous generation. Rav Shradom was here a decade ago, 2 decades ago. We're not talking about 100 years ago. So here we see that when a person is happy with their share, understands that everything that they get is a gift from heaven, and nothing is a curse. Everything is a gift from heaven. Even the punishment is a gift from heaven. If a person truly understands everything that comes from Shamayim is 100% a gift, even the punishment and the difficulties they'll accept with happiness. So much so that the Gemara says one of the Chachamim was in a street praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please give me parnasah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a miracle, gave him 2 legs of a cow. Came from Shamayim, already slaughtered and everything. He runs into the Kolel, says, look, I got this from Shamayim. What, is it kosher or not? Nobody flinched. They were all used to miracles. This is in the Gemara. They were all used to miracles. They all saw these miracles themselves. Automatically said, yeah, of course it's kosher. What's the raya? What's the proof that it's kosher? That this pieces that came to me from Shamayim are kosher? Chachamim pasken, nothing impure comes from heaven. Everything that comes from Shamayim is 100% pure. So then the question he says to them, what if HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have given me a donkey? What if we got? Donkey is not a kosher animal. What if Hashem would have given me a donkey? Can I shecht it and eat it? The poskim said 100% yes, that donkey would be kosher. Why? Nothing impure comes from heaven. When a person understands the magnitude of that statement, they know that even the difficulties they have in their life are a blessing, are pure, are good. But unfortunately, we're weak and we don't understand it. We're barely dealing with the blessings the right way. So here the Gaon of Vilna is trying to teach us, Habibi, listen to this. You have whatever you need. If you want more, invest more in the Torah. Invest more in the Torah, because for that HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised you that He'll give you more. Everything else He doesn't promise that He's going to give you more. Just because you want a bigger house doesn't mean that HaKadosh Baruch Hu agrees. Just because you want a bigger car doesn't mean that HaKadosh Baruch Hu agrees. Just because you want a diamond bracelet with a ring to match doesn't mean that HaKadosh Baruch Hu agrees. He didn't promise you any of those things. But if you want more, invest more in Torah. Invest more in your kids' education in Torah. Invest more in tzedakah. Invest more in kiruv. Invest more in your own learning. Invest more in Torah. Invest more in Torah. That is how you get more. That's how you get more. The beautiful thing is that when a person understands the depth of this blessing of Torah, is that when they invest more in Torah, they have to start thinking, wait a minute, I'm investing more in Torah, but it's my kid that's going to be learning. Why would Hashem give me more if my kid is the one that needs more Torah? Why? Because since you become the vessel, you chose to become the vessel that Hashem will use to pay for the education of your son, or some avrech, or some Jewish organization, that in essence, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides that He will become the vessel that will give you the money that you want in order to do the other things that you want to do other than just pay for Torah. Because He knows He's not going to give you the money and you're just going to pay for Torah. You want other stuff too. So in essence, He has to increase your income in order for your maaser, for your tithe, your 10% or 20% to grow further. Which means you end up getting a whole lot more. Meaning so much so that if let's say the Torah institution, or your son, or the avrech, or whoever that you're investing in that's pure, legitimate Torah, they end up needing more. Last year you donated $10,000, but now they need, and you are a loyal donor, you are a good partner, you didn't think that just because you donated a few dollars to them, you owned them or something like that. You donated for Shemaim. Now, they now need more. They don't need 10,000, they need 100,000 now from you. Now, if you are truly donating for the right reason, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees it and knows it, guess what? Because they need more, because the Torah institution needs more, not because you need more, they need more, He'll give you more. Meaning that it's not just that Hashem will give you more parnasah for Torah because you want more to do other things because you're investing more in Torah, but rather because you're investing in Torah, the needs of the benefiting party is also added to your accounting of whether you're going to get more or not. I mean, the depth of it is extraordinary. That's why so many chachamim, so many smart people invest with Issachar and Zvulun. They look for whatever way they can to find some avrech, to find some Torah organization that they can invest as much as they possibly can. As much as they possibly can to get a big share of what they do. Why? Because they know if they're going to invest with Be'ezrat Hashem, if they're going to invest with the right kollel, if they're going to invest with the right kiruv organization, if they're going to invest somewhere where they're going to see the blessing in their life. And if you're not seeing a blessing in your life after an extended period of time of investing in a Torah organization, you should question what's going on. Why? Because in essence, although the blessing doesn't necessarily come right away, there should be a blessing. There should be a blessing. There should be some type of results. If you're not seeing a blessing, you should be questioning if that money is really going to the right place or not. But nonetheless, here the Gaon of Vilna is teaching us multiple things, but then the author of this particular book, Rav Shai Grausha, he brings an extraordinary chidush. Extraordinary chidush. He says, how come the Gaon is insisting to his wife that they pay the tuition? Surely, if they show the value, the kids are going to like it, for sure. Surely, Hashem is going to pay for it anyway, so it's emunah, 100%, no problem. But why is he insisting we pay? Why can't we get one of the people to pay for it? Because technically somebody's paying for it anyway. I mean, what you're such a big rabbi, get one of your talmidim to pay for it. Why do your wife have to break her head to go pay the tuition. Go get one of your talmidim that loves you, that adores you, that learns from you, that you are really his ticket to heaven anyway. Get one of them to pay for it. Why is the rabbi insisting that we pay for it? Meaning he and his wife pay for it. Why? And he writes the following. He says in the Shulchan Aruch, Yoreh De'ah, 242, Halacha number 34. It specifically talks about how when a person sees that his father and his Rebbe lost something, both of them lost something, and he finds it, he finds both, he has to return the lost property to the rabbi before to his father. Why? Because the father brought him to the world, but the rabbi brought him to Olam Haba. He brought him to Olam Haba, unless the father is Talmid Chacham. But the Shulchan Aruch says that he has to take into consideration whether the rabbi is charging for the teachings or not. Why? The Rama says that if the rabbi is teaching the child Torah, but he's charging him a fee for it, he's doing it for a fee, then if he finds his lost object and his father's lost object, then he has to return the lost object of his father first. Why? Why does he have to return his father? Just because he's paying the rabbi some money, that means he has no value? No, it's not that. It's that since the father is the one that's paying for it, says the Sefer Hasidim from 800 years ago, if the father is paying for the Torah that the rabbi is teaching, then guess what? The father that's paying for it is considered as if not only he's paying for it, not only is he investor, he's the teacher. It's as if he taught his kid the Torah. That's what the Sefer Hasidim says. That's where they paskin from. That's where the Gaon of Vilna gets this from. Meaning that the Gaon of Vilna is telling his wife, no, we need to pay this tuition. Not get it from a donor or a friend or get a discount from the school. No, I want to pay for it, not because I only want to show my kids that the Torah is important. Not only because I want to show Hashem that I have emunah in Him and I know He's going to give me the parnasah. No, I want the mitzvah of teaching my kids Torah even if I'm not there. How? I'm paying for it. I'm paying for it. When I pay for my kids' tuition, Sefer Hasidim says, and I'm going to go with this to Shamayim, I taught my kid Torah. I fulfilled the Torah, v'shinantam bam, that I sing Shema Yisrael every day. Hey, I'm going to go up to Shamayim. My kid became an avrech. My kid became a rabbi. I'm going into Shamayim. I'm expecting everybody to call me rabbi. Why? I'm a rabbi. Look, I told my kid, look, he's Gdol Ador. Mashiach is over here. What? Yes, you're right. Mashiach Kvod Harav. You are a rabbi even though you barely even know one tractate in the Gemara. You kept mitzvot. You did everything. You barely know one tractate of Gemara. But you paid for your kid's tuition. And your kid, you invested in him to be a Talmid Chacham. You're a rabbi now. You are a rabbi. Needless to say, if you invest into a Torah institution, into kiruv, into investing into hundreds or thousands of people that could become avrechim, that are avrechim. This is why I tell people, it's not just about emunah and bitachon for a person to have to invest everything they can into our organization of Be'ezrat Hashem or anything similar to it. It's simple logic of the Torah. The more a person has the logic of the Torah, the more they understand they literally need to be a crazy person not to make Torah their number one investment. Why? Simple. You take your money, you invest it into, Microsoft, Apple, Google, whatever it is. At the best case scenario, the value of your money goes up. Goes up. That's the best case scenario. And it goes up and up and up and up, and you take some of the money and you buy some stuff with it, and you buy a house and you buy a horse and you buy a motorcycle and perhaps another pool and remodeling and so on and so forth. Best case scenario, you got a bunch of stuff that you could potentially enjoy in this world, but once a person dies, that's it. All of that money goes to a bunch of people, some of which you may have not wanted to give the money to, but it's beyond your control. but that's the best case scenario. When you invest into Torah, when a person understands what investing into Torah is, you invest, let's say, into our kollel in Eretz Yisrael. Kollel Dayanut. Kollel Dayanut. We're teaching people to become Dayanim, not just Avrechim, Dayanim, meaning these are the people going to have Batei Din. Arav Sharvit is Kodesh Kodashim, Talmid Chacham. Anyone that saw a shiur on Tisha B'Av understands what I'm talking about. Person is Biki in Kabbalah, in Shulchan Aruch, in Gemara. Literally, it's just unbelievable. Person is teaching people how to become Talmidei Chachamim. That are so much, that are Dayanim. They already have passed the first part. They're going to be Dayanim. So these people are not only learning Torah, but they're also going to be teaching Torah in our organization. They're going to be doing Kiruv in Eretz Yisrael. And on top of that, eventually going to become Dayanim with Batei Din. So a person that invests into a kollel like this, in his mind, he's thinking, not only am I a partner to what he's doing now with the learning, but I'm a partner to the lecture, where he's going to help some people get chizuk or do tshuva. On top of it, eventually he's going to become a dayan. I'll be a partner in that because I'm still investing, not just a one-time investment. And on top of that, I get benefits of all the psakei din that he has, everything that develops into another kollel and so on and so forth. It becomes literally a person can barely know how all of the halachot of Shabbat work, but they invest in Torah the right way on a consistent basis. They show up to Shamayim as a gadol b'Torah. They show up to Shamayim as a gadol b'Torah. Now you should also know that the Torah that you learn in this world is what you will develop in the next world. You don't learn anything new in Shamayim. Meaning, if you only learn Chumash in this world, in Shamayim, even if you go to heaven, they're going to teach you everything you need there's possibly to know about Chumash. But all the mystical aspects of Torah, the Gemarot, the this, the Halachot, the different parts of the Torah, you're not going to learn. You're not going to learn. Why? You didn't toil in it in this world. You're not going to get the benefit of it in the next world. But if a person invests in Torah, he invests in Avrechim, he invests in Kiruv, people learn Torah, some of them becoming rabbis, some of them becoming Avrechim, some of them becoming just good Torah students every single day. Each person, you're literally investing in tens of thousands of people that are learning Torah every single day as a result of the lectures. Guess what? You now become owner of all of their Torahs. Of all of their Torahs. Meaning, you invested X amount of money, 10, 20% of what you have into our organization. I'm only going to use our organization as an example because our organization is the only organization that I trust 100%. I'm not saying other organizations are bad. I'm just saying our organization, I know exactly where it's going to. I know it's going to Chesed, I know it's going to Torah, I know it's going to Kiruv, and so on and so forth. So now, you invest into Bezrat Hashem, right? Now, because you invested into Bezrat Hashem, some of the money could be going to kollel, some of the money to kiruv, some of the money go to chesed, unless you specify you want to only go to kollel, only go to chesed, or so on. Now, if you just invest general, some and some and some. Now, you in this world were working to make a living, to do whatever it is that you need to do, so you didn't have 15 hours a day to study. You studied an hour, 2 hours a day, 3 hours at best. So let's say you got together the weekly parasha and Daf Yomi. That's what you got together in your life. And let's say with that Daf Yomi, you completed the Shas once or twice in your life. Let's say. And you finished the Chumash. Let's say, but there's still a whole lot of Torah, 2 million books at least that you haven't read. But guess what? Because you made the Torah a permanent part of your portfolio, your investment, monetary portfolio, where 10, 20% of your income went to the Torah, went to the organization, went to investment. And guess what? You go up to Shamayim, they're not going to say, listen, we could only teach you Gemara here. We could only teach you Chumash here because that's what you invested in. No. You get a share in the Torah that every single person that benefited from the money that you invested learned. One guy became an expert in Shulchan Aruch. Another guy became an expert in Gemara. Another guy became an expert in Kabbalah. Another guy became an expert in Zohar. Another guy became an expert lecturer. Another guy expert this, expert that. A bunch of people. You are going to be taught all of their Torah. Why? It's your Torah now. You are an owner of that Torah. This is the reason, Rabotai, why the Gaon mi Vilna, the genius of Vilna, says, I don't want any favors when it comes to tuition. I want to pay for it. Yeah, but you could have 1 million students pay for it. The rabbi is willing to pay for it. I don't want him to pay for it. I want to pay for it. The Gaon of Vilna says, I want to pay for it. Why? I want to have emunah in Hashem, appreciation of the Torah, chinuch for the kids, and most importantly, I want to be a partner in all of the fruits that come out of the Torah that my kids learn. Not just as fulfilling the mitzvah of the father that's teaching his kids, but all of the Torah that the kids will ever achieve in their life goes to my account too. Goes to my account too. For this alone, he's a genius. Needless to say, for the endless Torah that he has. For this alone, to understand this point, makes a person a genius, but also makes it possible for us to become geniuses without having even 1% of 1% of the Torah that he had. But it requires full and complete faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he is going to allow us to do it. He is going to help us do it. He's going to give us the strength to do it, even when we feel like we don't have the strength. This is one of the extraordinary things that a person needs to know in their life when it comes to Torah learning, when it comes to Torah and the investment in Torah. A person needs to know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves the Torah. Loves the Torah. But sometimes people say they love the Torah, but they don't necessarily show it. So we said before, how come you have sometimes people, they may keep Torah, keep mitzvot, but as Rav Steinemann was saying, some people, they come to the yeshiva and they ask the rabbi for a discount, for tuition. They ask the rabbi for an exemption altogether. We don't have any money. We don't have any money. They have $1 million house, but they don't have any money for the tuition. They go on vacation twice a year, but they don't have money for it. Okay. Question is, how come the yeshiva, now the parent that's asking for a discount, Rav Steinemann already said, they don't have emunah, or perhaps maybe even a little bit of greed. But nonetheless, that's their deen. The question is, how come the yeshiva is getting such customers? What did the yeshiva do? Now, of course, we don't know the intricate details of heaven, but our Chachamim do tell us to use the foundation of the Torah to make evaluations that make sense. We know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world measure for measure. If the yeshiva keeps getting students that have parents that do not have emunah, do not have bitachon to pay the full tuition, not don't have money, they don't have the emunah and they don't have the bitachon to pay the tuition, that means you're getting that customer. That means you deserve that customer. That means you did something to earn that customer. That's not exactly the best customer. Why would you get the privilege of getting such a terrible customer? Maybe that's what you're doing. By positioning your yeshiva from the start to be so dependent on government funding and not dependent on Hashem. You've structured your yeshiva to take advantage of certain government regulations where you're, in essence, milking the government for as much as you possibly can to pay for the yeshiva. Instead of relying on Hashem, relying on the Torah, relying on the community, relying on things that are not antithetical to the Torah. Perhaps you didn't have enough emunah and bitachon yourself, and hence the reason why you're getting a little bit of a rebuke from some of your students of why you're getting these customers. Because there are, unfortunately, many great yeshivot that are being, falling under the shadow of the bad yeshivot. And some of these bad yeshivot, they do enough bad things that you think to yourself, how could there be still yeshiva allowed in the world sometimes? Some of the things that happen in these places. But nonetheless, there are a lot of good yeshivot. There's a lot of good places. But some of these bad ones, and I know firsthand certain things, literally, they structure the yeshiva in such a way that all they care about is just money. That's it. They don't care who's the student. They don't care if they're Jewish even. They don't care. Like literally, they have certain places. They call themselves a Jewish school or yeshiva. More than half the kids are not Jewish. Why it's still called a yeshiva, I have no idea. Why it's even called a Jewish school, I have no idea. But nonetheless, they have tons and tons of funding from the government. Tons of funding from the government. Some places, literally, they'll take all of the people that they possibly can get and have the teachers diagnose the kids with sicknesses. Every kid that doesn't want to listen to the teacher like a robot, they say, no, he has some mental illness. We need to give him pills. Why are they pushing pills so much? Many times because if the kid starts taking pills, the school gets additional funding for having special ed kids. So instead of getting, $5, $6, $7, $8,000 from the government for having a kid, they're now getting $10, $12, $15,000 from the government because that kid, he's not a healthy kid. He has attention deficit disorder or some other made-up disease. And unfortunately, this is what's happening in many, many places where people that are running the schools have no yirat shamayim. But of course, this is not all the places. Of course, this is a few that are out there. But nonetheless, there's a few that are causing enough damage that it makes everybody look terrible. That's what's called chilul Hashem. But we as a Jewish people need to know that we deserve this also. Why? If we were more righteous, our yeshivot would be more righteous. Our teachers would be more righteous. Our kids would be more righteous. Which means that it all starts with us. It all starts with us. And this is why the Gaon says that you have to make sure that these kids have all the tools they need in order to learn Torah. They have the support of the parents. They have the money that they need. They have the emunah that they need. They have everything, but including they have the health. Make sure they have the health. Make sure that they eat as much as they need to eat in order to stay strong and learn Torah. Many people think that if you learn Torah, that means you have to pretty much kill yourself and go on a diet permanently and look like you just came out of some type of Holocaust film. No, absolutely not. Eat normal, drink normal, sleep normal, study normal. That's it. That's all you need to do. Chafetz Chaim is a well-known Chafetz Chaim, even at his older age. He would go into his yeshiva at midnight, shut off the lights, and tell all the kids, Kindalach, Kindalach, Yalla, we have to go to sleep. So you have strength for tomorrow to learn Torah. Yeah, but they're learning Torah now. They were learning in the yeshiva. They weren't playing Tetris. They weren't playing video games. They weren't playing anything. They were learning Torah at 12 o'clock at night. They wanted to learn till 5 o'clock in the morning. Chafetz Chaim says, no. It's 12 o'clock. You learned all day. Now you need to go rest. So you have the strength to go learn tomorrow. You don't need to be someone that only sleeps 3 hours a day in order for you to be Gadol B'Torah. You could sleep 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours even. As long as the hours that you're awake, you're productive. People think that in order to be good, big in the Torah, you only sleep 3 hours a day. No, absolutely not. You could sleep a full schedule, but make sure that while you're awake, you are learning a full schedule. You're doing a full schedule. But that also means that you could also eat. That's in essence, what the Gaon of Vilna is saying. Make sure the kids are eating so they stay healthy. Where is he getting it from? It's all over the Torah. The Gemara in Masechet Bava Kama, in page 72a, quotes one of the Gdolim, one of the Amoraim. They asked him a question, and he didn't have an answer. Didn't have an answer for a certain halachic issue. And they asked him, for those, is there something wrong? He says, yeah, the last meal that I had didn't have meat. So from that meat, I get the strength in order to have the mental prowess that I need in order to know what the answer is. Last meal, unfortunately, we didn't have meat. So I don't have the strength to answer this question. From there, they spoil the chachamim, chas v'shalom? No, it's from there we learn the food affects the person. the food affects the person, even more so if it's kosher meat. I remember I told you this, I think, once before. We decided to stop eating meat for a little while. And I noticed myself that I didn't know it's because of the meat, but I noticed that I was getting tired, very, very tired very often. I'd fall asleep at the table sometimes. And I told my Rav this, told Rav Ephraim. He said, okay, start eating meat. I said, no, but Rabbi, this, that. He said, start eating meat. So what does meat have to do with me being tired? If anything, it's going to make me more tired. He says, opposite. You eat meat, you eat kosher meat, you're going to have strength to learn Torah. I said, what about this and the questions of this? You guys don't worry about the questions and this. Go eat. And Baruch Hashem, like a good little boy, I listen, and Baruch Hashem, we have the strength. We have the strength. When a person eats kosher meat, they get not only a physical strength, they get spiritual strength, because you have now helped this animal fix itself, complete its tikkun. Many times people fall into the trap of thinking that they're becoming more healthy by being vegan or some other form of strange diet. There's no need. No need. The Kadosh Baruch Hu made specific animals that for you to eat because He wants you to eat them. Simple. Simple, He wants you to eat them. Now, I'm not saying you have to eat a burger every single day. For a person to eat meat on Shabbat, to eat meat on Yom Tov, simply it's one of the things that in Torah says that's one of the ways to achieve a physical happiness in this world. So, unfortunately, many times people make a new definition for happiness. No, it's not good for me. Okay, it's not good for you. Kadosh Baruch Hu said it's good for everybody else but you. Some people really isn't good for them. It's really, they have certain disease, but those are few and far in between. Those are few and far in between. If you have access to kosher meat, you should eat kosher meat. Simple. Now, in the next section, the Gaon of Vilna says, "V'shilmedu mikodem kol hachumash shiyu regilim kemeat ba'al peh, v'al yachpid alehem ki im בנחת, כי הלימוד אינו נקבע באדם, כי אם ביישוב בנחת. ותפזרי להם פרוטות וכיוצא. He says, in a letter, first, have the kids learn the entire Chumash until they know it almost by heart. And the learning must be done without any undue pressure, but rather gently, because Torah study is absorbed only when one is relaxed, and shower them with coins and the like as a reward. So first we see that the Gaon of Vilna is teaching what the Mishnah in essence teaches, where it teaches that back in those days they had the mental and physical prowess and spiritual prowess where you're already learning, teaching the kid Chumash at 5 years old. So you're already sticking to that. Of course, today, if the kid learns Aleph Bet by the time he's 5 years old, in many places, it's already an achievement. They think your kid is a special genius just because he knows the Aleph Bet at 4. But in reality, it's in the older generations, people were much, much smarter. But he's telling his wife, teach the kids first and foremost Chumash, to the point where they even know it by heart. Baruch Hashem, one of the two keilot that until this day are still strong in this, especially if they stayed in their original countries of Yemen and Morocco. If they move to Israel, the America, then all bets are off in most places. But if the Yemenite Jews, generally speaking, already by the time the kid is 5-6 years old, they know the entire Chumash by heart. 5-6 years old, they know the entire Chumash by heart. Even to this day. Many times, even in Morocco. Other places too, but very few. Very few. But Yemenites, many times you'll meet somebody that's Yemenite, and he's already 30, 40 years old, 50 years old. Sometimes doesn't keep much, but he knows the entire Chumash by heart. Why? He was taught as a little kid in Yemen, 5 years old, 6 years old, they know the entire Chumash by heart. In those days, Rabbi Reuven, alav shalom, would say that they would teach each pasuk in the Torah 100 times. 100 times for every pasuk in the Torah. So the Gaon of Vilna is saying, teach the kids Torah, start off with the Chumash, till they know it almost by heart. Almost by heart, so they still have more to learn, but nonetheless, make sure that you're doing this not like people think, like it's supposed to be like a military where you yell at them and there's unnecessary pressure, which is really the way of the goyim. Many times the goyim teach their kids certain things, but they teach them in such a way where they scare the kid to death, where because of the fear, that kid has this knowledge imprinted into their hearts and their minds. One time I saw somebody, proud of the fact that their, 3, 4, 5-year-old kid knew every state in the country of America, and I think every city, and a lot of different dates. In reality, there's nothing impressive about that. Why? That kid is living a miserable life because the father's a sociopath. We'll leave it at that. And didn't do a lot of good things, put it that way. But he's proud of the fact that his kid has like a telephone book of states. That's not impressive. To just yell at your kid to, and force them to know something, that's not education. That's not education. That's not what the Gaon of Vilna is saying. He says, no, you have to teach the kids. But you have to teach the kids because this is valuable. Show them that this is valuable. It's so valuable that you are investing money in it to make sure to get the best tutor, the best yeshiva, and you yourself are investing time to learn yourself, and you yourself are investing time to teach them yourself. This is valuable to you. Teach them the Chumash. Teach them in a pleasant way. Not a pleasant way where you're telling them that everything that they do is perfect and they can't do any wrong. Pleasant way in a sense that you're showing them that you are passionate about this, but for the right reason, not psychopath. Many times people think that just because it says Darkei Torah, Darkei Noam, that everything should be said in pleasantness, that means that every speaker of Torah needs to be monotone and at best funny. At most funny, that's it. They're not allowed to yell and scream. This is completely wrong. Some of the greatest Talmidei Chachamim that are public speakers in the recent generation and past generations were very, very passionate people. Some examples are like Rav Nisim Yagen. Rav Nisim Yagen simply was, just his voice alone was scary. Just his voice alone was scary. But any one of his Talmidim from that day is still his Talmid to this day, even though he's already left the world almost a decade ago. Rav Nisim Yagen would literally scare you into Gehenom and bring you into Gan Eden all during the same shiur. With compassionate speech, his voice, you don't even have to understand what he's saying and you're already inspired to do tshuva. Rav Shmadron, some of the speeches that I've heard him, Pachad Elokim, you have just from his voice. You have like fear of Hashem just from his voice. Forget about the things that he said. Just his voice alone, you're scared of the voice. What a powerful voice he has. One of the famous ones of today, Rav Daniel Zer. He's, one of those speakers that his natural voice almost seems like it's screaming. But every week, he has a shiur for 4,000 people. 4,000 people live. Who are his crowd? Some of the people that came to him, until this day come to him, gangsters and people literally. Some of them even started as murderers and became Talmidei Yeshiva. 4,000 people, sometimes 5,000 people show up to the shiur every week. Live. Not on internet. Live people show up in front of them. Huge stadium they have. Every week. Like clockwork. You hear him talk, it sounds like he's screaming. And he is screaming, but it's not screaming like we think screaming in a negative way, aggressive way, bad way. But rather compassionate. Same thing with Rav Yosefi. Rav Yosefi, Rav Yehuda Yosefi has been in the kiruv business and Mezakeh Rabim for over 50 years. He's probably the oldest one in the generation. Baruch Hashem, may he live 100,000 more years. Kodesh Kodashim. He is very entertaining, scary as can possibly be. If he was an English speaker, they would throw him out of every single shul. But they would be scared to tell him because literally his voice, on the spot, a person dies. That's how scary. And the words that he says, he was invited, Rabbi Yosefi, Rabbi Ephraim saw this with his own eyes, was invited by a secular family to come to the funeral of one of the sons because Shem Yishmor died. I think it was some type of accident or stabbing or something. But anyway, so they invited him to the funeral. A funeral! In a funeral, what do you hear? Usually you hear, oh, he's a good boy. You know, he's in heaven. He's, don't worry, everything's okay. Rav Yosefi, he's standing there next to the body. He looks at everybody in the crowd. He sees so many secular people. He says to them, you see him? You want to be like him? Keep violating Shabbat. Rabbi Chaim sees this and nobody knows even what to say. There's literally a dead body next to him. You would think he's going to say something of compliments. He tells a crowd of a few hundred people, you are all going to be like him if you keep violating Shabbat. But he keeps getting invited every single day, everywhere. He's one of the most well sought out speakers in the Hebrew language today. Over 50, 60 years he's doing it already. Every word that comes out of his mouth is Kodesh. And he has all these different things that he does. He's, Baruch Hashem, is older man, so he has this thing where he like blows air into himself like fake, but he goes, and he gives Dvar Torah. And it's entertaining, but it's mesmerizing, and it's also scary. But he's not scaring from aggression. He's scaring from compassion. And there's a very big difference. There's also another very well-known speaker, relatively newer, just the last probably 5-6 years, genius in Torah. He's one of Rav Mizrahi's students, Rav Eitan Baghdadi. He's an extraordinary genius, knows an enormous amount of Torah. He's surprisingly a Chabadnik, one of the few real Chabadniks in the world that are very, very strong speaker. And he is a genius in Torah, enormous amount of Yirat Shamayim, talks about everything. And each word that comes out of his mouth, simply, doesn't matter if you speak the language. You hear him, you're scared. You're scared, just simply listening to his voice. Now, is he aggressive, trying to kill people? No. It's passionate. And there's a very, very big difference that people don't understand. When they say Darkei Torah, Darkei Noam, that all Torah needs to come in a compassionate way, in a way that's relaxed and so on, it's not saying that you're not allowed to be passionate about the truth. It's in essence saying that you have to always be focused on what needs to take place. What is the whole objective of your words? If your objective is just simply to scare people because you get pleasure out of scaring people, then you should become a mute and never speak again. But if you are speaking to people and your objective is to inspire them to get closer to Hashem, and you're passionate about that, and you're focused about that, and because you're passionate, because you're focused, your speech elevates, your tone changes, and all types of things happen, that's siyata d'ishmaya, that's help from Shamayim. That's the necessary way to speak to most people today in order to get them to move. And in fact, in the business world, the most sought out speakers, the most well-known speakers, the most successful speakers speak this exact way, yelling, screaming. Unfortunately, some of them, speak a lot of vulgarity and cursing and so on, and people think this adds value, but it doesn't add any value. But if a businessman speaks to you, yells at you, and screams at you for an hour, you're excited and you're going to pay him $5,000, $10,000 per seat just to hear this guy with a baseball cap speak. But if a rabbi raises their voice, if you don't have the mind of Torah, you think, oh, the rabbi is being aggressive. It's complete foolishness. When a rabbi is speaking in such a tone like Rav Yagen or Rav Yosefi or Rav Baghdadi, myself, others, it's simply because you are expressing your compassion to the public, to the yearning for them to wake up. It's a completely different type of message. It's an outcry. It's an public outcry to get people to understand what they really need to do. One example is one of the well-known Gdolim of the previous generation, also was known as someone that when he spoke, he raised his voice, and when he prayed, he would sometimes even yell. And one time, a person that wasn't from there came to the community, came to see it, and he saw that in the middle of prayer, this Talmid Chacham started screaming to Hashem, Oy vey, nay, So the guy got bothered, and after he everything finished, he says to him, why are you yelling? So the rabbi took his hand, trach on his face. And the guy said, oh, why are you hitting me? The rabbi says to him, why are you yelling? He says, because it hurt, you hit me. He says, exactly. When something hurts, you yell. You care about your face. That's why you're yelling. I care about the tragic situation that our community, our nation is in. That's why I cry. That's why I yell. And that's the difference, Rabotai. That's the difference. When a person understands the real meaning of certain words that are used in the writings of the sages, in the different letters, in the different books, and so on, he sees that it's not so simple. It's not so simple that you could just read the teachings of the sages like you read some type of fiction book or non-fiction book. There's a lot more teachings in every single word. And when the Gaon of Vilna is telling his wife to make sure that the kids learn Chumash, to make sure you're learning without any unnecessary pressure, because that's how the Torah needs to be learned, where you relax and you're focused, the teacher is focused, the student's focused, he then throws a curveball. What's the curveball? And shower them with coins and different rewards, meaning bribe the kids. Wait, if you've already invested a ton of money into the Torah, if you're already invested into the yeshiva, if you're already invested into the tutor, if you already made sure that the tutor and the teacher and the parent and everybody else is, a certain way, teaching a certain way, behaving a certain way, and so on, why do you still need to bribe the kid? And not only bribe them, he says shower them with stuff. Shower them with stuff. Why do I have to shower them with stuff? Shouldn't they already buy into it? Rav Chaim, once we had a conversation about chinuch of kids. And he says, you have to understand, even if a kid is 5 years old and he knows a lot of stuff, he still does not have what's called dat, which is the ability to tell right and wrong in accordance to the consequences. He says, even if a kid is 10 years old, he still doesn't have dat. Just like the 5-year-old. Even if a kid is 11, 12 years old, even if the kid is the Gaon of Vilna, who finished the Shas already by the time he was like 8 or 9, still did not have dat. Why? It's not gifted to you until you're bar mitzvah. Meaning, he could be a computer. He could be, know a lot of Torah, know a lot of good things, be a good kid. He still does not have the full capacity like you will have in a few years. Meaning, you cannot judge him like you would a regular person. Just like you wouldn't take some kid that has mentally challenged or physically challenged and start beating him up because he showed up late, or start yelling at him because he's not paying attention. You're not going to do that. Why? Because you're not a psychopath. Don't go crazy on your kid if he's not paying attention, or he's not really into it, or he doesn't want to learn, or he gets into a little bit of trouble. Don't lose your mind on that kid. He's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. He still doesn't have dat. He still doesn't have dat. You know what that means, not to have dat? He's not even a complete person yet. And you're getting mad at him as if he's doing something on purpose to hurt you, to disrespect you. It has nothing to do with you. He doesn't have dat yet. He's missing a piece. He hasn't been gifted it yet. So what does that have to do with anything? That's why you have to bribe him. He doesn't have that. He doesn't even understand yet, even though you're investing everything you possibly can, your whole neshama, your life, you're working overtime, you're doing everything possible just so this kid can have the best Torah in the world on a silver platter. You still have to bribe him and buy him some toys and buy him some this and do some different things and give him some chocolate and give him some respect and pretend like you like his Dvar Torah and pretend like he's the rabbi of the house and play along. You still gotta do that. Why? Because you have to understand. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have all the tools to understand yet. You have to use every tool possible to get this kid to learn. And if that means you have to give him some extra chocolates or some extra coins or some extra something just to get him to just do his Torah learning and to just get used to doing it regularly and to spend all of his time doing it, that's it. You already won. I'll finish off with a story. There was once a boy that his father, every single time that kid would do a Dvar Torah, listen, book, read a book, do a mitzvah, he'd give him something. Give him something. Oh, he read the book? Here's a shekel. Now, the father wasn't rich. The father was an avrech. He gave him a shekel. Every time you have a full page of chidushim, I'll give you a shekel. Now the kid is 6 years old. What chidushim is he going to have? So he writes, the father of Avraham is Terach. The son of Avraham is Yitzchak. The other son is Ishmael. And he starts writing this over and over. Fills the whole page. And different things fill up the whole page. Bottom of the page. He gives it to his father. Here you go, Abba. The father looks at it, sees the page is full. Takes a shekel, which is like the equivalent of $1 to us in America. Gives the kid $1. And on the bottom of the paper, writes, paid. Kid takes the paper, puts it back. Next day, kid writes, likes to get the shekel because he can eventually buy himself something. Writes different things that he learned, gives to his father. Look, father takes shekel, no exceptions. Another one. Sometimes the kid doesn't have a lot of chidushim, writes 3, 4, 5, 6 things, but still wants to get the shekel. So he makes some drawings to fill up the rest of the page. Father looks at it as if the whole thing is a chidush. Pays. Writes on the bottom, paid. And that kid, every single day, was inspired to write stuff connected to Torah, to do mitzvot. Not because he wanted to be the biggest rabbi in the world, or to be an author, or to be an avrech, or to even be religious. It's that he was programmed as a little kid, this is good, I get good stuff when I do this. You would think, that's brainwashing. You're right. It's brainwashing from all the filth. And that brainwashing led to Rabbi Chaim, who by the age of 30 wrote over 40 Torah books, recognized by the biggest chachamim in the world as a genius. We don't really know how many books he wrote. We know we've documented at least 40, but it's probably somewhere closer to around 70 or 80. Most people at 30 years old haven't read 40 books. Haven't read 40 books. How did it start? Rav Chaim, his father, is a genius in chinuch. He says, little Chaim, every time you write a chidush, you fill up the paper with chidushim of Torah that you learn, I give you a shekel. So little Ephraim, that's what he wanted to do. Here's a paper. Abba, have a paper. Abba says, Chazak u'Baruch, give him a shekel. Before you know it, the kid likes Torah. Before you know it, the kid likes to write Torah. Before you know it, the kid already starts to publish divrei Torah that are accepted by Chachamim by the time he's a teenager. Before you know it, he starts publishing major books, major works, and Baruch Hashem continues to do so at a pace that's unprecedented. Ishtabach Shimon Ad. Why? His father listened to that Torah, listened to the Chachamim, listened to the Gaon of Vilna, who says, you want your kid to be Chacham, invest everything you can in it. And everything you can't, just invest. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Levu alai, v'ani poreah. Even if you borrow on my name, for the sake of my Torah, I'm going to pay for it. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.